people thought a little bit about yesterday, what we talked about. This text is really quite uh, potent and quite forceful in many ways. We'll be getting into another section today, where where the text is really saying, if you have animosity, directed towards the self-centered thought, not towards other people, because the self-centered thought is what harms us the most, not other sentient beings who are kind. And it also encourages us, for example, when we're sick, or we have physical pain, instead of saying, it's not fair, I don't want this, go away, to say, oh, I am burning up previously created negative karma, and that's good. It's fantastic. And I can have more sickness, yeah? Yeah, more sickness can come, more hindrance can come, because whenever I have hindrances, it gives me the opportunity to practice the Dharma. It burns up all sorts of negative karma. So hip hip hooray for, hindrances. So, it's a total reversal of how we usually think, which is, I think, one of the things that makes this text so powerful. Thank you. Yeah. Because it totally challenges our usual way of reacting to things, instead of reacting, with our self-centered thought. We're called to really respond to things in a way that is aligned with what we believe. So it's challenging because we're Buddhists, and so there's many things that make a lot of sense to us. Yes, but rejoice when I'm sick, because I'm, saying that it's okay if I get sicker. That's crazy, that's masochistic. What's going on here? Okay, and that's not what the Dharma is saying. We're not trying to cause ourselves suffering. Yeah, suffering comes all by itself. We do not have to go looking for hindrances. We do not have to go looking for pain. We do not have to go looking for illness. Yeah. All you have to do is continue breathing and all these things come. Yeah, they come automatically. Why? Because of our previously created negative karma. So we're not trying to make ourselves suffer. And we're not saying, oh, I'm so guilty because I created negative karma. What a horrible human being I am. I deserve to suffer. No. Yeah. They should hire me for some movie, huh? So, no, we're not trying to, we're not looking at ourselves that way. Instead, we're seeing, okay, the self-centered thought is not who I am. It is not an inherent part of me. Yeah, it's something that is deeply ingrained because of habit, but it can be eliminated, and the same with the self-grasping ignorance. Yeah. So instead of playing along with the self-centered thought, now when I have problems, I'm going to give the pain to it. Yeah. And then you look at your self-centered thought. Sorry, we're not directed towards you, His Holiness. Right at the door, right between you. The self-centered thoughts right there. So you go, you know, I'm not going to get fooled by you and create more negative karma because you're throwing a fit because you're unhappy. Yeah, but do you see how things usually work? We create some negative karma, but when we experience the result of it, usually we don't learn from our experience. We don't say, oh, this has to do with my own negative action that I created before. Yeah, nobody else is responsible for that. So I'm experiencing the result of what I created. Yeah. And it's the fault of self centered thought, yeah, which is not who I am, is not an inherent part of my nature. Yeah. So I'm going to shift the pain and the blame to the self centered thought. Yeah. And it's really, it sounds crazy, but when you really understand about karma, then doing that makes sense. Because, yes, I am experiencing the result of my own karma. And if I don't like this result of getting sick or having hindrances or whatever, then I've got to stop creating the cause. Because if I don't stop creating the cause, I'm going to continue getting more of the above. Yeah. So what causes me to create that negativity? It's that self-centered thought, who is such a what's a good word? I mean, self-centered thought is so deceptive. It comes and it's like it says, "I'm on your side. Yeah, listen to me, and I'm going to protect you because I'm centered on you, and I'm going to try and get you everything you want in samsara, and lash out at the people who don't give you what you want. So be my friend." That's what the self-centered thought says to us. Trust me. I'm looking out for your benefit. So, yeah, yes, I will trust you, self-centered thought. You are the boss. And then we follow it and we experience the results of doing the same stupid adagios all over again. Okay? Whereas if we can really see the self-centered thought as the problem, then we say, okay, yeah, I'm not going to follow you anymore. And any suffering I get, I'm handing over to you because you're the one responsible for it. Yeah. And the reason I tell so many stories is because, the Dharma has to pertain to our actual life experience, not just theory, intellectual knowledge that sounds good, but it has to pertain, and we have to embody it, because we're trying to act in accordance with what we believe. Yeah. Whereas, generally, oh yes, we believe karma, self-centered thought is bad, but when I'm unhappy, it's not my fault, it's somebody else's fault. Yeah, I'm being unfairly picked out. Yeah, and then you follow in the great tradition of Dani, and you live what they call with a grievance mentality. Life isn't fair. I'm discriminated against. People pick at me. Oh, woe is me. Yeah, yeah. So, and then we throw a pity party. Yeah, complete with our lead balloons and our music that's oh, 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 yeah, and we listen to that, and we enjoy our pity party, you know, which the pity party is hosted by the self-centered thought, yeah, and the message we're getting at that party is it's not your fault, it's another sentient being's fault. Yeah, you're sweet and innocent. Yeah, and it's other people who don't treat you right. Yeah, and that's so, when self centered thought says that to us, it's so comforting, isn't it? Yeah, because I didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, if I admitted that I created some negative karma because I lied or cheated or took somebody else's possessions, or, you know, if I admitted I committed something negative, then that means I'm a bad person. Yeah. And no, I am never a bad person. Yeah. So you see, making mistakes doesn't mean we're a bad person. Committing negative karma doesn't make us a bad person. Okay, we have the Buddha nature. Yeah, committing negative karma makes us experience the result of our own actions, but it doesn't mean we're a bad person. Yeah. So we have to just talk back to the self-centered attitude. And we know how to talk back, don't we? We did it plenty as teenagers. Yeah, to your parents. Why are you telling me what to do? I am an adult and can make my own decisions. Now say that to the self-centered thought. Okay? Instead of being rebellious to authority figures, our chief authority figure who's really doing a number on us is the self-centered thought. And that's the one we have to look at and say, I'm not following you. Stop getting on my back. Leave me alone. I'll make my own decisions. So it's your wisdom mind that is talking back to the self-centered thought. Okay? The thing is, we have to remember to do this when we have problems. Yeah. Usually we forget. Yeah. Because self-centered thought, it has a lot of influence. It has a long track record. And whenever, as long as we keep giving into it, it's going to keep coming and making us miserable. Okay, so as an antidote to this, let's take refuge in the Buddha Dharma Sangha and generate bodhicitta. Yeah, taking refuge is an antidote to the self-centered thought, because we're saying we want to follow the Buddha who overcame his own self-centeredness. We want to follow the Dharma that teaches how to overcome self-centeredness and self-grasping. We want to follow the Sangha who has made considerable progress on all of that. So, we turn to them for refuge. And then how are we going to overcome the self-centered thought? By doing the exact opposite. So instead of blaming others for our problems, we're going to work for the benefit of others. Okay. Some of you look like. Yeah, I like talking about taking responsibility for negative actions, and I sure hope that the people who I don't like listen to this teaching. Yeah. It's a very good teaching. They should really practice it. I'll send them the link. Yeah. Yeah, just like when I give talks on working with anger, you see people in the audience kind of elbowing their husband or wife. Listen carefully, dear. She's talking about anger. Listen. Okay, so visualize the Buddhist Bodhisattva. This is the space in front. And we're surrounded by all those sentient beings who have been infinitesimally kind to us in previous lives. They're kind in this life. They will be kind in future lives. So spend a couple of minutes and reflect in your own experience about the disadvantages of following the self-centered thought. For example, whatever non-virtuous karma we have created was created under the influence of the self-centered thought. Whatever hypersensitivity we have to how other people treat us, again, self-centered thought. When we get sick and moan and groan and blame others, and really feel sorry for ourselves, that too is the self-centered thought. So make some examples in your life of this. And what's the antidote to this self-centered thought? Seeing its faults and contemplating the benefit of cherishing others and working to alleviate the misery of others. So spend a couple of minutes thinking about the kindness of others and generate the thought wishing them to be free of their misery, wishing them to have happiness, not just the happiness of sense pleasures, but the happiness that comes from being free from self-grasping and self-centeredness. And so let's share the Dharma today with the motivation of bodhicitta, a heart that cherishes other living beings, wants to work for their long-term happiness and welfare, and seeks to become a Buddha in order to do that most effectively. So let's make that our motivation today. Okay, story time. So first, not a story about me, but a story about another nun who was doing retreat at Kopan, and it was a long retreat, I guess. And in the middle of it, she got a very big boil on her face, and it was big and it was painful. And so one day in the break time of her retreat, she was taking a walk around, around Kopan, and she ran into Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and who asked her, how are you? And she said, Rinpoche, I have this big boil and it's so painful. And Rinpoche said, fantastic! This is so good, And, she's an old Dharma student, but you see what I mean about you don't think about these things when you need them? And Rinpoche is saying, you're so fortunate you have that big painful boil. Yeah, you're burning up so much negative karma that could have, ripened in a hellish rebirth. And now you just have this simple thing. The doctor will treat it. You'll be okay. And she's like, she really wanted, a little bit of pity and comfort. But this is how Rinpoche would show pity and comfort. He would put us back in the Dharma track. Yeah, because that's the way to really have a happy, healthy mind. Whereas the usual pity and comfort would just increase our self-centeredness. Yeah. But he just told it as it is from a Buddhist perspective. Yeah. Okay. So I had heard Rinpoche talk, about giving the pain to the self-centered thought, and I had, when I get sick, I usually try and think, I'm, uh, burning off the negative karma that could have ripened in a horrible rebirth, so I can make it through this problem, which was not so bad, and so I practice that. Yeah. But giving the pain to the self-centered thought, that's kind of another step in the process of switching the blame. So when I was in Tibet in 1986, yeah, 86, yeah, I think it was before they closed it, and we were traveling around, and uh, I was mm, I was with Second Rinpoche's attendant at Rinpoche's family's house. This is the previous Rinpoche, and we wanted to go to Lama Latso, which is the lake that in which you it's down in a valley, quite a steep way, and when you sit on the top, when they want to find like the next Dalai Lama or have some sort of sign of something, they go there and do some puja and look down at the lake, and then they'll see different signs that come up, pictures or letters or whatever, and that was one of the ways that led them to find the present Dalai Lama, in Amdo. And, so we wanted to go to the lake, and it's in a pretty remote area. And, um, so we probably, some people could go in a car, but we went on horseback. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I won't go into too many details. Okay. So, they gave me a really very pacified, sweet horse, okay, who I named Naljorma, Nellie for short. Yeah, I thought Nellie was a good name for a horse, but her legitimate name was Naljorma. So I was riding Nellie, and we had to cross several streams, when we were going there. And there were like there were maybe 5 people together. Okay. And one of them, maybe 6. Anyway, one of them was one Inji monk. And, who I had known for, quite a while. And his horse was not very cooperative. Whenever we got to a stream, his horse would start to go through and then stop in the middle. And, he was a person who kind of had a problem with anger, when you knew him. Well, you didn't have to know him well to know that. But, so he'd shake his, feet on his horse's side to try and propel it forward. The horse was very stubborn and just stood there. Okay, so this happened a few times. So I had the brainy idea, uh, that since this was a person who I didn't get along with so well, that it would be a nice token to offer him my horse and, try and, because the thought training teaching also teaches you to, be kind to the people who are mean to you. That's what we'll chant after lunch in the 8 verses. Yeah. So, so I offered to switch horses with him. Oh boy, he got so mad at me. Yeah, I still don't understand why he got mad. Because in that incident. There was nothing to get mad about. But he had been stockpiling in his mind everything he didn't like about me and everything I did in the past that he didn't agree with, that he thought was awful. And he had a whole computer file, in his mind of all those things. So he starts saying, well, when you lived in Italy, I heard stories about you and you didn't. And when you lived here and you were doing that, you didn't. And he just lashed out at me. Okay. So I'm a person like everybody else who doesn't like being criticized. Yeah. But at that moment, and maybe this is the blessing of Pelden Lamo, because we were going to Pelden Lamo's lake, the thought came in my mind: why don't you give all of his criticism to the self-centered thought? So as I kept riding along, he refused to change horses. He was the brave one. Um, yeah. So, uh, so as we're riding along, I really thought, okay, I'm going to do this. And I started thinking of, all the faults of my self-centered thought and everything it had, all the problems it had caused in my life and all the misconceptions and grudges, that, where do grudges come from? Self-centered thought. Yeah. Where does the feeling of, people don't treat me right, it's unfair, come from? The self-centered thought. So I started giving all the pain of being criticized to the self-centered thought. And I just kept doing this. And it calmed my mind down. And I was really surprised because that night when we camped, we stopped and we camped, my mind was very still and quiet. Because usually after something like that, I would be really, and, and be in a super bad mood. But I wasn't. It was really astonishing to me that when you do these techniques that are taught in the thought training teachings, they work. Creating happiness right now, yes, but it saved me from creating so much negative karma, getting mad at him again, and saying more nasty things about him. I don't necessarily say nasty things to the people. I'm too polite to do that, but I will talk about them behind their back. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody want to hear? I think some of you like doing that too. Yeah. So, it saved me from creating all that negative karma of harsh speech, divisive speech, and instead, it created more faith in my mind in terms of how, if you really take the Dharma seriously and practice accordingly, it works. So let's continue with the text. But this is what the text is going to go into, So, okay. Now, I used this yesterday. You should be right here. How come you aren't there? Look, the computer doesn't even do what I say. Yeah? I thought that's why you had computers, because they were the only ones who would follow your instructions, yeah, with a click. Yeah, and they don't do that. That's crazy. Okay, let's try here. Ad blocker has crashed. Select this balloon to reload. Later. Not now. Okay. So we were on the part about generating conventional bodhicitta in the second of the 7 points. And the next line we're at is banish the one object of every blame. So that's the self-centered thought. I just explained that, okay? So again, it doesn't mean that you always blame yourself for whatever goes wrong, because that becomes an inverted kind of pride of, I'm so horrible, I can make everything fail and be a disaster. So we're not blaming ourselves, we're blaming the self-centered thought. Yeah, so this is the key to doing that, of separating the conventional self and the self-centered thought. Okay. And then meditate on the great kindness of all. So we talked about that yesterday, how really when we look around, how are we able to stay alive? It's due to the kindness of other beings. Yeah. And in a politically divided country like we live in right now, we have to see too that the people who have the wrong view, voting for the wrong candidate, yeah, that they're entitled to their views, but they also, and maybe we don't see them as kind in that way, but all these people have jobs in society, they do work, we benefit from the work that they do. Yeah. And the food we grow comes from other sentient beings. When we go to the hospital or the clinic, we don't ask people what political party are you voting for, or who do you belong to, or who you're voting for president. We see that these people, whoever they are helping us. Yeah, from the receptionist who checks you in at the clinic, to the person who, affirms that you still live in the same place, to the person who takes you back and gives the preliminary check, to the doctor, all these people, it doesn't matter, who they vote for or what their political philosophy is. We are receiving benefit from them. And we have to be very aware of this. And again, not just take somebody and just say because of their political view that they're a deplorable or they're horrible. Oh, that would make a nice poem. What a horrible deplorable, and and I want nothing to do with those people. No, I mean we're receiving benefit from them. So, to be aware of that and thus to relate to people with a kind attitude, yeah, and initiate conversations, talk to people, it creates a lot of goodwill, no matter what your political philosophy is. Okay, so this is very important. Okay, so we talked a little bit yesterday about the kindness of your friends, strangers, yeah, enemies. Strangers, very important to thank, yeah. Garbage collector, thank them when they come. the road workers, thank them for fixing the road. The people who repair the telephone lines after a windstorm when we have no electricity, thank them. Yeah. So all these people, were receiving benefit from their life, from their life energy, and to see that kindness. Okay, then the next line says, practice a combination of both giving and taking. So this is the Tonglen meditation. So taking, the giving and taking and giving. Yeah, and the Tibetan, it should be translated as, we usually say what? Taking and giving. Yeah, so Tibetan usually translated as giving as take and taking. That, yeah, but I think our Western way is better, because because we have to first take beings suffering in order to give them happiness. Okay, I'm joking about that. But and this meditation again is quite powerful, where we imagine, the people in front of us who are suffering from whatever it is, and we can make it special according to the circumstance we're in. So when you're having your wisdom teeth pulled, then everybody who just had their wisdom teeth pulled, and whose mouth is hurting, if you need a blood transfusion for lymphoma, everybody, that you envision before you, all the people who are in that same condition. Okay, or you can just think, people in Gaza or Ukraine or whatever, or the people in Russia. I mean, it's not like they're happy, and the people in Israel certainly aren't happy. So you can visualize anybody, and then with an attitude of compassion, because compassion wants to take, wants others to be free of their misery. Then we imagine that their suffering leaves them. We can think of it leaving them in the form of some pollution, some smelly pollution, or some sticky goo, or whatever unpleasant thing, and it leaves them. And then we imagine, inhaling it, and we imagine when we do that, that our self-centered thought, self-grasping ignorance is a lump at our heart. Yeah, because that's how we feel when we're really entrenched in I'm right and you're wrong. And we feel it here, don't we? So that is our enemy. So we're taking what sentient beings don't want, their suffering. We're voluntarily taking it and using it to destroy what we don't want, our own self-centeredness and self-grasping. Okay, so we imagine, it leaving them, we inhale it, yeah, and then there's different ways to visualize here. I like doing it as a lightning bolt that then strikes at that lump at my heart of self-centeredness and completely destroys it, leaving an openness, like just a radiant open space at your heart. When I say heart, I'm talking about the center of your chest, not the beating heart, but your heart chakra. And so you take what they don't want, use it to destroy what you don't want. Stay in that open spaciousness, and then think that, with love, because love is the wish that sentient beings have happiness and its causes, that I'm giving them my body, possessions, and merit, all transformed into what they need. Okay, so not just like, here's my body, and they go, what am I supposed to do with your body? here's my possessions, you're dirty, I have to take your dirty underwear. No. Now you imagine all these things transforming into what others need to be happy, and you send that out. Yeah. And so you send out what they need to be happy right now. Yeah. But you also send out Dharma teachers, texts written in a way that corresponds to that person's receptivity. you know, you give them what they need now and Dharma materials that are suitable. So you imagine giving all of that to them. And they receive it. And now, oh, instead of seeing a group of sentient beings in pain in front of you, you think that now they are happy and relaxed. They've been practicing the Dharma, they're on the path. Okay. So this is a very profound teaching, because the last thing usually we want to do is take our own suffering. We don't want to experience our own suffering, let alone somebody else's. And we certainly don't want to give our body and possessions to others. Yeah. What, you just got a new desk and you're going to give that away? Yeah. You just got new socks? You just got a new house? Oh, and you're going to give that away? They'll ruin it if I give it to them. I'm not giving it to them. Shut up, self-centeredness. So you really, meditate in this. So it challenges the ego, the self-centered ego, very much. Yeah. And it's very effective. Sometimes people have qualms about this, like, well, it sounds nice as a meditation, but what happens if it works? Yeah. I don't want to get some. I'm happy to imagine taking their cancer and using it to destroy my self-centeredness, but I don't want cancer. They can keep it. Yeah. This is how we think, isn't it? Yeah, this is a nice meditation, but I hope it doesn't really work. Yeah. So when that happens, we need to go back and do the meditations on how to develop compassion and bodhicitta, because at that moment, we're not having compassion. Self-centered thought is running the show again. Okay, so we have to step back, meditate more to generate compassion, think of the kindness of others, think of their suffering, develop compassion, then try again. Okay. I had an interesting experience when I lived in Singapore. One man wanted me to teach him how to meditate. And we weren't even doing the taking and giving meditation. We were just dedicating the merit. And I always say, when you dedicate the merit, imagine it as light that you're sending out to all sentient beings, and it purifies them, and it brings good conditions for them and their practice and so on. And when I said, imagine sending it out so that other beings, benefit as a result of your merit, he looked at me and he said, I have so little merit, I don't want to give it away. Yeah. So I was quite touched by what he said, because, okay, yes, he's back in self-centeredness. I don't want to give this to somebody else. But he had really firm faith in the law of karma and its effect. And that's what made him not want to give his merit away. Okay. But in this meditation, yeah, even our merit, which is the source of our happiness, even that we practice giving away. Yeah. Let alone, a healthy body and our possessions and everything like this. Okay. So it's important before doing this meditation to really do all the meditations to develop bodhicitta. I think sometimes people jump to this meditation very quickly, and then it just becomes something automatic that either leaves you bored or it makes you feel good, but it doesn't really change your mind. Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm taking on their suffering. I'm giving them my body. And it's all very intellectual because as soon as you get off your cushion and somebody says, uh, there's a mess, can you go clean it up over here? Why are you asking me to clean up that mess somebody else made? Yeah. And all of our love and compassion uh, isn't even out the window. I wonder how much we had to start with. Yeah. So that's why it's important to do those practices beforehand, so that when we do the taking and giving, if it stings, that's good. As part of your mind goes, ugh, then it's like, okay, there's self-centeredness. Now I can see it. There's self-grasping. They're the cause of my misery. Give the harm to them. Okay. So, usually this meditation, you can do inhaling. When you inhale, you take the suffering of others. When you exhale, you give them your body, speech, and merit, your body possessions and merit, transformed into whatever they need. Okay. Um, yeah. So, if you're afraid that you're going to get sick, just remember too that it's whoever creates the karma is the one experiencing the result. If we could really take on others' karma, the Buddha would have taken on all of our negative karma already, and we would be liberated. Yeah. So what we're afraid of is, if it works, oh no, is actually not something to be afraid of. But when that thought comes up, instead of saying, oh, I don't need to be afraid, look at the self-centeredness and the self-grasping at that time as a very good opportunity to see them. Okay. Commence taking progressively from your own side. So if you want to start doing the taking giving meditation, you can think, and this is usually easier to start with, think of your future self and take on that person's suffering, okay, and give them your body, possessions, and merit. So you could think even of yourself when you're old, and the suffering you're going to have when you're old, and take that suffering. Have compassion for your future self. Take it on, give them your present good things, okay? Or think of your future life, the negative karma I've created that's going to cause me to be born in such and such a realm, and oh, let me take that on, and it's my own future suffering I'm taking on. Yeah. So it can be an easier thing to start with, your own suffering. Yeah. But make sure you get to other people's suffering as well. Okay. Oops. Okay. There are 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 sources of virtue. Okay. So in terms of attachment, the object is going to be an attractive object. Okay. The poison is going to be, craving, attachment. And the source of virtue is thinking about impermanence, giving away the things that you're attached to, giving them a mind of renunciation. Uh, this is making this point is making sure we know when we have a problem, what is the object we're focused on, and what is the antidote to it. When you're angry, what's the object? Somebody who's you are projecting bad qualities onto, or somebody who you're exaggerating their faults. Yeah, what arises in our mind? Hostility, anger, grudge holding. Yeah, the three sources of virtue. What's the antidote to that? Loving kindness and compassion. Okay, so whenever you have some affliction come up, do this. When arrogance comes up, here I am. I am superior to all of you. You just don't know it. And that's why you tell me what to do. How dare you tell me what to do when I am superior to you? Okay. So what's the object? Yeah. Whoever we're projecting that onto. We're being arrogant. Yeah. What are we projecting? Arrogance to the other person. They're telling me what to do. How dare they? So as a person, we're projecting that on, or we're projecting, authority onto them. And I don't like authority figures. Yeah. No, they're just asking you to do something. I don't care. Can't ask me to do anything. Why not? Because I am superior and don't need to do those lowly things. Yeah. Make fun of your afflictions. Yeah. Make fun of them because they are ridiculous. Yeah. And then what's the antidote to that? Well, there's a number of them. They usually say, contemplate the 12 links, the 6 sources, the 6 elements, the 6 objects, 6 sources, 12, 6 sources, 12 sources, 6 objects, 18 constituents. Yeah? Contemplate those. And just even making the list of them, you realize how little you know, and your arrogance goes down. Okay. Yeah. There's a few more really good antidotes to arrogance, like, the arrogant mind thing. And the arrogant, yeah. And then you start criticizing it. Arrogant mind is saying, don't you tell me what to do. And then your wisdom mind says, why not? Well, because I am superior. Okay, you want to be Chakravartin king? You want to be king of the universe? How are you superior? How am I superior? I just am superior. Yes, I know more than most people. Yes, I am. Oh, I am a better monastic than other people. I am very highly realized. I have renounced everything, including love and compassion. You have a little conversation with your arrogant mind, and make fun of it because it's something that deserves to be made fun of, because that's what hurts it. And when you're applying the antidote, it's going to be the opposite of what that affliction wants. Okay, the arrogant mind wants respect. Okay, I won't tell you anything to do. I am your servant. Ali Ali Salami. I bow down to you. Yeah, that's what arrogant mind wants. And instead you go, make me. How are you superior? Yeah, put it to the arrogant mind. Yeah, because we usually have a lot of reasons for our own arrogance. We just can't think of them at that moment because at that moment they don't sound very convincing. Why am I better than other people? Well, I just am. That's all we can say. Okay. So, what that line is getting at is, when afflictions arise, hit them strong with the antidote. Okay, the next one is remember this by repeated recollection. So again, remember what you've learned in Dharma class, review your notes, meditate on it. Yeah, try and think of the antidotes when you need them. Yeah, when people call you out because your mind is afflicted, recognize it. And at the time, if you can go, thank you very much, do that. Even if at the time you recoil and you're like, really, when you realize afterwards, okay, they were right, go and apologize. Okay. Okay, practice every activity with these words. So, whatever we do, practice the thought training teachings. Okay, so when we eat, we're not just eating for pleasure, we're eating to keep our body healthy so that we can practice the Dharma, so that we can increase our ability to benefit sentient beings. When we sleep, this one's hard. How am I sleeping for all sentient beings? I can't even think of anything else when I go to bed except, yeah. So, try and think, okay, I'm an ordinary being. I need to rest my body and rest my mind so I can continue practicing. But I'm not going to sleep too much and indulge in sleep. And I'm not going to sleep too little, trying to be some sort of fancy dancy ascetic. So I'm going to, sleep what I need and not more. Okay. And I'm doing this so that I can wake up in the morning and be refreshed and continue my Dharma practice. Mm-hmm. When I lie down, to go to sleep, what I find very nice is to think of, it's not nice, but it's helpful. I think of people in the world who are suffering, and I imagine, sending them what they need, and really imagine them being happy, not just getting what I need, but I imagine all these living beings feel safe. Like if I do it for people in Gaza or people in Israel, or Ukraine or Russia, or even this country, imagine sending whatever, sending food, sending, yeah, sending the ability to be with their families and feel unafraid and know that there's enough food, and there's shelter and there's clothing and there's medicine. And then, because if you think of what the people experiencing the lack of these four things experience is horrible. And then if you really think, oh, I imagine sending these things to them, I imagine them receiving them, and then they just go, oh, all the mothers who are so concerned about their children starving, now can relax. Yeah. The people worried about their sons going off to war and getting killed, they can relax. And so just imagining people feeling safe and at ease, I find that very helpful to do before I go to sleep. Connects you to the rest of the world instead of saying, oh, the news is always bad, I don't want to think about any of that. No, you practice giving and taking, or in this case, you could dedicate your merit especially for them. But then, like last night when I was doing that, I was thinking, but having enough food or the lack of enough food isn't everything they need. That satisfies them for a short while, yeah. But without knowing the Dharma, they have no power to avoid hunger and, all these kinds of horrible things, again, because they don't understand the law of karma and its effects. And so, just wanting that for them. And then that kind of bumps up your compassion so that it's getting closer to, to bodhicitta, because you're seeing it's not just food and clothing, shelter, and medicine that people need. It's something much, much deeper, Okay, so that's the conclusion of the second point. Third point, changing adverse circumstances into the path. Okay, so this one is really top notch. Why? Because adverse circumstances are going to come our way. Yeah, why? Because we've created the karma. Why? Because we're living in a world with afflicted sentient beings. Yeah, who want happiness, but often act out of afflictions, just as we do. So, the misery is going to come, and we have to take it on and use it to develop our good qualities, use to progress along the path. Okay, so this does not mean, emphasize, that you cause yourself suffering. It does not mean that when you're injured, you don't go to the doctor. Okay? So it does not mean that you inflict misery on yourself. Yeah. Of course, if you can get, if you're sick, go to the doctor, get well. Yeah. Yeah. If you're hungry, eat. Don't think I'm going to be an ascetic and, eat 1 grain of rice every day like the Buddha did. Okay. Yeah. So don't cause yourself suffering because, like I said, it's going to come already. You don't need to do that. Okay. But the line says, when the container and its contents are filled with evil, change this adverse circumstance into the path to full awakening. Yeah. The thing, when I just read that flashed through my mind, is we have one friend who lives in Dnipro, Ukraine. And when Ukraine was invaded, she, I wrote to her and I said, come here, be with other practitioners, be in a safe place, don't stay where there's danger. And she said, no, I'm staying. Yeah. And periodically I would keep writing to her and say, come here. And she refused because, yeah, she feels like she needs to support the people who are staying. Yeah, she needs to be an element of something good in that society at this time. She didn't say it that way, but I think that's kind of the meaning. And um, what she's doing is this practice of when the container and the contents are filled with evil, change this adverse circumstance into the path to full awakening. Yeah. So she's really practicing very well not to be angry at the Russians. Yeah. Even last month, her office, she wasn't in it at the time, but the building her office was in was bombed and the office was destroyed. Okay. So she's really maintaining a mind of compassion, seeing these aggressors as, uh, you know, people who are under the influence of their own afflictions, not as evil people. Okay, so she's not attacking them with harsh words. She has compassion for them, for being in the situation. Okay, when we have another friend who is from Buryatia. It's one of the Buddhist areas in the far east parts, a very in part of Russia, and he may be coming here in December. Yeah, and this is you've received the application, so he tells us about how people are selected to join the Russian army. And that's why he's not in the army. He left, when they first started, what is it, drafting, you know, drafting Russian kids, young men into the army. He left, a couple of our Buddhist friends did at that time. And he, says that they're, in addition to Putin drafting the people who are in prison, offering them release if they don't get killed in the war. Yeah, that they're also drafting a lot of the minorities. And so, especially in Buryatia, Buddhist area, I mean, there's many, many minority groups in Russia drafting those people, and because they're expendable in some way, and they don't have very much training in being a soldier, and they're sent on the front lines. Yeah, and many of them are killed. And so she looks at these people doing that and says, they're not evil people. Yeah, they're they're not doing this because they're filled with hatred. They're doing this because the government drafted them into the Russian army. Yeah, so she really practices not hating the Russians, which is quite amazing, I think, when your own country is getting bombed like that. And I don't know how many of you are keeping up with it, but the pictures that are coming out of Ukraine, it's amazing. I try and think, similar with Gaza, like how do people live when you have bombed out buildings everywhere you go and the fragments of these buildings in the street? You don't have a regular street. There's all this litter from bombed out things. And she's just incredible, keeping a positive attitude, you know. Yeah, I forward the letters to most of you afterwards. Yeah. So what is she doing? She's practicing this. Yeah. So instead of getting angry, instead of getting depressed, yeah, it's difficult. Yeah, but doing her best to keep a positive um, mental state. Okay, so there's various ways to take obstacles into the path to invigorate our Dharma practice. One of them is uh, really doing a lot of purification and a lot of accumulation of merit. Because when you're in difficult situations, yeah, again, instead of blaming others, hold ourselves accountable. Even if it's a previous life self, we're still in the same mental continuum as that person who did this, and we're experiencing the result of that. And so let's do really strong purification practice. Yeah. And, do prostrations, do Vajrasattva, do any of the different things that you can. So many of the practices we do involve thinking of one of the Buddhas or the other and light streaming into us. We say the 7-limb prayer, the third of the 7 limbs, is I confess all of my negative actions. So, really do very strong purification. It's quite important. It's really, it's really, really important to do that. And accumulate merit, do positive deeds, whether it's, making offerings or helping people or volunteering, at a at the Dharma center of the monastery or an old folks' home or a home for kids with cerebral palsy or at the local hospital, do some volunteer work. So anything that's virtuous. So one way to transform, you know, negative circumstances into the path is use it to motivate you to do strong purification and accumulation of merit. Okay. Um, Another way to do it is by doing the taking and giving meditation. Yeah. And really saying, very good that I'm suffering. Very good. Yeah. And this is a result of my negative karma. I hold myself accountable. I'm not blaming other people. And I'm going to, not just hold myself accountable and stop blaming, but I'm going to take on their misery and then give them my happiness and do, the taking and giving meditation. Yeah. So it's very helpful to do the little things that start with little things sometimes that seem impossible to do when actually they're very little things, um, to be of benefit. Okay, what I mean is that it's so nice in our meditation to imagine being Chenrezi and I'm sending light out to all these sentient beings and it's touching them and purifying their negativities, giving them interest in the Dharma, giving them all the cooperative conditions they need, to be able to practice the Dharma. And I'm just visualizing that in my meditation. Yeah, that's good. It gets us thinking about other people. But it's also just a visualization that can lead us to feeling, oh, this is good. Now I feel, I'm sending out lights. Yeah, I'm on the path. I'm doing really well. Aren't I a great practitioner? But try doing the things that are difficult. Yeah, like when somebody says, you know, can you vacuum the whatever? Yeah, can you change the kitty litter? These things are so tiny, they don't take very long. But our instant reaction is, I don't want to. And it's not right that you're asking me anyway. There's somebody else who should do it. Or somebody asks you to have something, or and what they ask you is you don't want to give it. It's mine. Yeah. Then you practice giving. You practice doing what somebody asks. Yeah. It's usually such small things, but sometimes it's fascinating to see how dug in our self-centeredness gets about, I don't want to do that. Okay, more stories. So, as you know, I got along very well with some of the macho Italian monks who made me. So at one point, where were we? We had gone to another city in Italy because Sergei Rinpoche was teaching there, and people were talking about, Rinpoche's qualities, and I had a picture of Rinpoche that I just loved. Okay, it was a picture taken a few years before that, when His Holiness had gone into no, His Holiness hadn't gone there. Rinpoche had gone into the area of Spiti, that's above Manali. It's in the mountainous area of India, and he had gone there, and there was a picture of him riding a yak. Yeah, and I just love that picture, of him riding a yak. And then this ridiculous thought entered my mind that one of these, guys who's tormenting me, but who also has faith in Rinpoche. We have the same teacher. I thought I should give him that picture of Serkan Rinpoche riding the yak. Oh, no, I'm not going to do that. But I made myself do it, yeah? Because if you can't give somebody one piece of paper that's this big, then what are you doing saying, I'm going to lead all sentient beings to full awakening? It was one picture this big. And you might remember a few years back, we had a little practice session where everybody had to bring something that they were very attached to. And we sat in a group. How many of you were here? A few of you. Yeah, not all of you were here. So something that you were attached to, and we had to, very attached to. You couldn't just say, well, the top of the thermos. It has to be something. Yeah. So we all did that, because the idea was bring something you're attached to. We're all putting it on the table, and then everybody will select something that they want. So somebody else is going to get the thing that you're super attached to. Yeah. It was a good practice, wasn't it? Yeah. You want to tell, yeah, the mic's in front of you. You can tell how you responded. Go ahead.
This is my claim to fame. I don't know what actually moved me to give this, because I was so very attached. Someone had given me 7 ruby glass cups. They were probably cognac cups or something, but they were beautiful. I used them for offering bowls. They were so beautiful. The light would come through them and just shine like rubies. And I was feeling so full of faith every morning when I would fill those beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ruby bowls. So I brought them. And then it took years before Venerable Thubten took them. I noticed when she did and did not even use them. For a long time. It took me a long time to let go of those. And now they're totally hers. They really are hers now. But anyway, it was a great exercise.
Venerable Samke, what did you bring?
I don't know if it's still happening in Dharamsala, but when you go around on the Kora walk, there was this one family, I think, carving Om Mani Padme Hum
Yes.
onto these little rock pieces.
Uh-huh.
So I got a couple of those, and I think I gave at least one out, and it was painted. And I really didn't want to give it away at all because it was so, symbolic of this first trip to India and walking around His Holiness's compound and all that. There's so much meaning attached to this piece of rock. So I think Venerable Senpi might have picked it up. And then I discovered it outside in the garden. I thought, are you kidding me? It's out in the garden?
On the dirt, huh? Yeah. Yeah. So we should do that again. Yeah, we should do that again. It was really good. Yeah. Yeah. I gave one picture of His Holiness, and sometimes I see it in the library. I don't know where else it has gone. What? You gave it away? I can't even see it in the library anymore. Oh, it was just, yeah. I think, I'm not sure if I was there. It could have been that the person I was with took that picture, or that it was a similar situation. But it reminded me so much of one time when I was talking with His Holiness about the book and the way he was sitting. He was, he had been giving the Jigjay empowerment. And yeah, anyway, yeah, so just, yeah, giving things away. And it's a good practice, creates lots of merit. Okay, so we didn't get very far in the text. Yeah, I was really planning on going through the whole thing so you would get a taste of everything. But of course, I'm Lama Zopa's student, so we didn't get very far. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, so, I aspire to be like him in more ways than this. Yeah. But, yeah, our teacher, he would spend usually about 3/4 of a session talking about your motivation, and then the last quarter, you got the text. And then you had a dedication, which was as long as the motivation at the beginning. But, we might complain, but you would never give up a teacher like that. Never, never. If you did, you were a complete idiot. Oh, I shouldn't call people names. Okay, so we got partway through the third one. Okay, so maybe sometime in the future we can pick up again and do another weekend talking about this text and continue on. Okay. Yeah, and yes, in the meantime, we have a lot to practice. There's no shortage of what to practice in this teaching.
I didn't quite understand when you said visualizing Chenrezig, with all his hands going out and helping people.
Yeah, what my point was, it's a wonderful meditation, and we need to do it because it opens our mind to the suffering of others and to really engaging with it and helping them. Yeah, but that's very different sitting on the meditation cushion, feeling very peaceful, imagining doing that, and giving them your ruby red offering bowls, or your picture of your teacher, or whatever it was that you're attached to, because one is imagination, the other is doing something that is directly threatening the self-centeredness. Yeah.
I was wondering, when you visualize the self-centered thought, does it always show up as that lump of coal at your heart, or does it take different forms depending on the circumstance?
I think, they usually say like that, but I think it's fine to change the form. That's just my personal opinion. If you would rather, think of it as the sludge disc from a a sludge pit from a factory, or a cesspool, or some, I don't know, whatever, yeah, you can change it, I think. The point is that is the manifestation of your self-grasping ignorance and your self-centered thought.
Or sound like when you give the criticism to the self-centered thought, like you did on the horse?
Okay, you can do it whatever way you like to. You can do it just quietly and in your thought process, but I find it very, very effective to make fun of my afflictions and make fun of how I think and how I act when an affliction is dominated. So you can do it in a way, that works for you. Yeah. Or you could imagine, or you imagine maybe you're not making fun of your affliction, but which hurts its pride and its ego, or you can do it in terms of maybe something that is just going to completely cut it off, uh, rather than make fun of it. So, what does it look like? It just, however you want to, um, you could sit there and look at your self-centered thought and then tell it's all its faults, like that person did to me. Self-centered thought, you're the cause of all my misery. Every negative karma I have ever committed is due to you. So that's why I'm suffering now. So you take this suffering. Yeah. So you can do it like that, too. It depends.
Thank you. When you wish for people everywhere to be free from suffering, and you hope that they encounter the Dharma, why don't you wish sort of for them to encounter spiritual awakening in any religion rather than just the Buddhist Dharma, given that many people aren't in geographies where it's likely that they would encounter the Dharma?
Yeah. Because when I wish them to encounter the Dharma, it doesn't necessarily mean in this life, in the place where they're currently living. Yeah. Because some people, their minds are not right now very receptive to the Dharma. Yeah. So whatever religion they're practicing, it teaches them good ethical conduct. That's great. Yeah. But the Buddha Dharma has the ability to lead us to full awakening and lead us out of samsara. So that's why I always, imagine people at that time when this is the right path for them and they're receptive to be able to meet that. And I think of also giving, if I could give them receptivity to the Dharma, then I give them that too.
Makes so much sense. Thank you.
Okay.